It seemed to Lucy only the next minute, though really it was hours and hours later, when she woke up feeling a little cold and dreadfully stiff and thinking how much she would like a hot bath. Then she felt a set of long whiskers tickling her cheek and saw the cold daylight coming in through the mouth of the cave. But immediately after that, she was very wide awake indeed, and so was everyone else. In fact, they were all sitting up with their mouths and eyes wide open, listening to a sound which was the very sound they'd all been thinking of, and sometimes imagining they'd heard during their walk last night. It was the sound of jingling bells. Mr. Beaver was out of the cave like a flash the moment he heard it. Perhaps you think, as Lucy thought for a moment, that this was a very silly thing to do. But it was really a very sensible one. He knew he could scramble to the top of the bank among the bushes and the brambles without being seen, and he wanted above all things to see which way the witch's sledge went. The others all sat in the cave, waiting and wondering. They waited nearly 5 minutes. Then they heard something which frightened them very much. They heard voices. "Oh," said Lucy, "he's been seen. She's caught him." Great was their surprise when, a little later, they heard Mr. Beaver's voice calling to them from just outside the cave. "It's all right," he was shouting. "Come out, Mrs. Beaver. Come out, sons and daughters of Adam. It's all right. It isn't her." This was bad grammar, of course, but this is how beavers talk when they are excited. I mean in Narnia. In our world, they usually don't talk at all. So, Mrs. Beaver and the children came bundling out of the cave, all blinking in the daylight, and with earth over all of them, and looking very frosty and unbrushed and uncombed, with the sleep still in their eyes. "Come on!" cried Mr. Beaver, who was almost dancing with delight. "Come and see! This is a nasty knot for the witch. It looks as if her power is already crumbling." "What do you mean, Mr. Beaver?" panted Peter, as they all scrambled up the steep bank of the valley together. "Didn't I tell you," said Mr. Beaver, "that she'd made it always winter and never Christmas? Didn't I tell you? Well, just come and see." And then they were all at the top, and they did see. It was a sledge, and it was reindeer with bells in their harness, but they were far bigger than the witch's reindeer, and they were not white, but brown. And on the sledge sat a person who everyone knew the moment they set eyes on him. He was a huge man in a bright red robe, bright as holly berries, with a hood that had fur inside it, and a great white beard that fell like a foamy waterfall over his chest. Everyone knew him, because though you see people of his sort only in Narnia, you see pictures of them and hear them talked about even in our world, the world on this side of the wardrobe. But when you really see them in Narnia, it's rather different. Some of the pictures of Father Christmas in our world make him look only funny and jolly. But now that the children actually stood looking at him, they didn't find it quite like that. He was so big and so glad and so real that they all became quite still. They felt very glad, but also very solemn. "I've come at last," he said. "She's kept me out for a long time, but I've got in at last. Aslan is on the move. The witch's magic is weakening." And Lucy felt running through her that deep shiver of gladness which you only get if you're being solemn and still. "And now," said Father Christmas, "for your presents. There's a new and better sewing machine for you, Mrs. Beaver. I will drop it in your house as I pass." "If you please, sir," said Mrs. Beaver, making a curtsy. "It's all locked up." "Locks and bolts make no difference to me," said Father Christmas. "And as for you, Mr. Beaver, when you get home, you will find your dam finished and mended and all the leaks stopped, and a new sluice gate fitted. Mr. Beaver was so pleased that he opened his mouth very wide and then found he couldn't say anything at all. "Peter, Adam's son," said Father Christmas. "Here, sir," said Peter. "These are your presents," was the answer, "and they are tools, not toys. The time to use them is perhaps near at hand. Bear them well." With these words, he handed to Peter a shield and a sword. The shield was the colour of silver, and across it there ramped a red lion, as bright as a ripe strawberry at the moment when you pick it. The hilt of the sword was of gold, and it had a sheath and a sword belt and everything it needed, and it was just the right size and weight for Peter to use. Peter was silent and solemn as he received these gifts, for he felt they were a very serious kind of present. "Susan, Eve's daughter," said Father Christmas, "these are for you." And he handed her a bow and quiver full of arrows and a little ivory horn. "You must use the bow only at great need," he said, "for I do not mean you to fight in the battle. It does not easily miss. And when you put this horn to your lips and blow it, wherever you are, I think help of some kind will come to you." Last of all, he said, "Lucy, Eve's daughter." And Lucy came forward. He gave her a little bottle of what looked like glass. But people afterwards said it was made of diamond, and a small dagger. "In this bottle," he said, "there is a cordial made of the juice of one of the fire flowers that grow in the mountains of the sun. If you or any of your friends is hurt, a few drops of this will restore them. And the dagger is to defend yourself at great need, for you are also not to fight in the battle." "Why, sir?" said Lucy. I don't know, but I think I could be brave enough." "That's not the point," he said. "Battles are ugly when women fight. And now," and he suddenly looked less grave, "here is something for the moment for all of you." And he brought out, I suppose with a big bag on his back, but nobody saw him do it, a large tray containing 5 cups and saucers, a bowl of sugar, a jug of cream, and a great big tea bottle sizzling and piping hot. And then he cried out, "Merry Christmas! Long live the true king!" And he cracked his whip, and he and the reindeer and the sledge were all out of sight before anyone realised they'd started. Peter had just drawn his sword out of his sheath and was showing it to Mr. Beaver, when Mrs. Beaver said, now then, don't stand there talking till the tea's got cold. Just like men. Come and help me carry the tray down and we'll have breakfast. What a mercy I thought of bringing a bread knife." So down the steep bank they went, and back to the cave, and Mr. Beaver cut some of the bread and ham into sandwiches, and Mrs. Beaver poured out the tea, and everyone enjoyed themselves. But long before they'd finished enjoying themselves, Mr. Beaver said, "Time to be moving on now.